Hello and welcome to Administering Team Foundation Server 2010. This is a presentation by Sailesh Mehta. You can find me on linkedin.com/in/Prof Sam. My goal here is to educate you on how you can learn about administering Team Foundation Server 2010 through our Microsoft courses. These are courses that Microsoft has created to help IT administrators learn about the Microsoft products. My goal is to just go over the material that I would be covering. This is my introduction, Sailesh Mehta. These are some of my Microsoft certifications. As you can see, I'm a Microsoft person, and I basically train on most of the popular Microsoft servers like Windows, SharePoint. This is a summary of Module 1 of Microsoft Course 50430, Microsoft Team Foundation Server 2010, presented by Sailesh Mehta. So, Team Foundation Server is meant for any organization that wants to implement code management. It is not necessary for the TFS administrator to have an in-depth understanding of programming, but they should be able to understand the basic principles under which TFS works. And this course has specifically been written for IT administrators who will be managing a TFS server, but not necessarily programming or creating any programs that would be managed by the TFS server. So this course is going to provide a overall approach to the traditional life cycle of an application. TFS is a collaboration platform at the core of Microsoft's ALM, Application Lifecycle Management, and it supports, if you go to the URL at the top of the page, you can read all about the cross-platform development with TFS on the Microsoft. So this is module 2 of course number 50430, Microsoft Team Foundation Server 2010, owned by Microsoft and presented by Sailesh Mehta, MCT. So module 2 covers planning and deploying. So we'll discuss best practices for selecting the topology. How many TFS servers should we have? Where should they be placed? The locations, the connectivity. What should be the size of the teams that will manage the Team Foundation server? The number and types of projects that we'll be hosting for Team Foundation server. And then how are we going to manage these projects? What's the life cycle? And how are we going to make these projects highly available if they're in multiple locations? So we will discuss and we will give you the best practices of how to implement this in your organization to get the best performance from Team Foundation server. You'll also learn about how to create TFS project collections. You'll learn how to create projects using either the Agile or the CMMI templates. There are two templates that are given to you by Microsoft. You have to pick one. We will also discuss the hardware considerations for all the different tiers. For example, the application tier, the data tier. Should we implement TFS proxy? What about the build servers, and how do we test? Where are the test agents? So we will discuss and give you the best practices for all of these too. We will also give you hardware recommendations for the SQL servers, TFS servers, and the clients. We will also discuss and give you best. This is the Lab 3A for Module 3. Exercise 1 is creating a team project collection and a team project. And then the part 2 is modifying the root folder for the report subfolders. Then in Lab 3C, we will talk about reconfiguring the reporting. And this is Module 4, where we will be discussing client connectivity, licensing requirements, Also, developers, how they can access TFS from either Visual Studio or Eclipse. TFS supports both. We will show you how to set up and use Team Explorer. We'll show you how to access TFS from Microsoft Office products like Excel. Also how to configure Visual Studio and Team Explorer for TFS and the TFS proxy. And finally, troubleshooting TFS connection issues. This is a screenshot of TFS Web Access, and as you can see, it supports queries, source control, build, reports, project portal, process guidance. We'll show you how to use this. We'll also show you how to use Excel to access a TFS collection as shown in the picture. This is the Team Explorer. We'll explain to you how to use it. And in lab 4, we'll be showing you how to add work items using Excel and using Team Web Access to connect to TFS. Module 5, we'll be working with work item queries, modifying work items, setting up alerts, and using the Power Tools. We have demonstrated. In Module 6, we'll be talking about administering version control, managing workspaces, working with shelf sets, how to create them, how to delete them, how to retrieve them. Shelf sets are basically used so you can save data that you're working on which you're not ready for, and then you can recover it later on. Branching and merging, how to use those two functions in TFS, and of course team project version control settings. So all this in module 6. We have a nice lab which will go through all these different parts of managing workspaces, branching, merging, version policy settings, working with labels and shelf sets. Module 7 is for those companies that have previous versions of TFS, and we'll show you how to upgrade or migrate or integrate between previous versions of TFS and TFS 2010. We'll also discuss how to migrate from Visual Source Safe, how to migrate other version control settings systems, and how to integrate your other systems with TFS 2010. All this in Module 7. In Module 8, we'll be covering Advanced Administration Overview. We'll discuss whether you need to separate your TFS into different tiers for providing high availability of TFS, also better performance, how to set up the application tier, the data tier, the database tier, etc. Also how to set up a version control proxy for your branches, how to manage it, how to set it up, how to validate a successful installation, how to configure SMTP to send emails and alerts for TFS, how to change the URL for the Team Web Access, the Team Reporting Services, etc. And we'll also show you how to change the default SharePoint web application. We'll show you how to set up reporting for TFS, and we'll provide an overview of the configuration of SharePoint and reporting services after installing TFS. We'll also discuss best practices for installing additional application tiers for failover and scalability. All this in Module 8. We have a lot of demonstrations, so I'm just going to show you what they are. There are a lot of them in Module 8. Setting up reporting, rebuilding a warehouse. Then we have Lab 8A through C. A is deploying and configuring version control proxy. B is deploying a new build controller. C is deploying a new application tier. And Module 9, the last module, but of course the most important